Time Hour, starring UBK and Nathan Schreier and UBK. And now, the UBK Happy Fun Time Hour.
You were at NAMM.
I was at NAMM. You were at NAMM.
I was at NAMM.
The whole world was at NAMM, especially if that world is from the 80s and adopted their fashion style and music sensibilities then, and it involved electric guitars and haven't changed in 30 years. It's interesting because every year I freak out. There's so much craft to be done. There's prototypes to be pulled together. There is cut sheets to be printed. There's gear to be packed up. I got to pull apart my studio because I'm such an ass clown that I don't actually have a separate rack for trade show gear. I pull my own personal gear out. So I unwire my studio. I do all this stuff that causes me stress. And then I end up hating the trade show because of all these choices that I made to put off stuff and not do stuff the smart way. And this year, I don't know. It was pretty cool. People come from all over the world. We had one gentleman from Inner Mongolia this last time. He records, indigenous musicians there and gets them in Carnegie Hall.
So there must be an Outer Mongolia too?
Oh, there most definitely is an Outer Mongolia. Absolutely, yeah. And there's an Inner Mongolia, and this guy's from there, and he came up to the booth because he heard of the clariphonic, and I'm like, how does this world work?
Is there a Middle Mongolia?
No, there is
just
not.
Inner and Outer.
No,
okay.
It's good. There's no
a belly button.
Middle is not, for the record. Middle's not between inner and outer. Think about a jar or a labia. You're either in or you're out. That's it.
I hear you now. So we can think of Mongolia as a labia.
As outer Mongolia is the clit of Asia. It's amazing. People come from all over the world, and because they've heard of Kush Audio or they've heard of me and they want to meet me and everything. And I'm taking this all in, and it's like this year it really finally hit me. I'm just like, good Lord, how could I not be just completely grateful for this experience? So it just was that nonstop the whole time, except for Sundays, which are pretty dead, as you know.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful. NAMM was amazing. I had a great time. We met a lot of amazing people. And the response generally is, I love your stuff, please keep doing it, or how come I've never heard of you guys? This is crazy. And so that's just, I don't know, I feel like it's awesome.
Yeah, there was quite a few people that came up to me saying they wanted to meet you, and I charged them $5 to get in line. And
nice.
I don't think you ever met them, but I made a lot of money from it. Okay. So
well played.
Oh yeah.
That's all right. I didn't want to meet him anyway.
Did you get to walk the floor at all?
I did. Usually Sunday. Sunday's like the slowest day.
Yeah.
So I managed to get out and about. And but as it so happens, I passed by the Antelope booth, and they had something in there that I didn't, because I just stopped to say hi to a gentleman named Marcel there. I met him before. He's a great guy. And I saw this thing there as a 2-rack unit high silver box, basically. I was like, what the heck is that? He's like, that's the Orion, I think. Yeah, the Orion. And I was like, tell me about that. And so it turns out they got this 32 channel in, 32 channel out converter box that works over USB. It's insane.
What?
Yeah, they made a custom chip just for this.
USB 1?
USB 2. Yeah. Even though the 3's out now, everyone's having problems with that. That's great. Thank you for another standard. So yeah, this thing,
So
they're sending me one.
Is it USB 2 or 3?
USB 2.
USB 2.
Yeah.
Wow. USB 2 is a little bit warmer than USB 3.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. 64 channels of audio flying at high sample rate over USB 2. The guys are geniuses, clearly. Assuming it works, but everybody says it works. They're sending me one to play with because I'm going to check it out. Because if it works, I'm gonna get one. Just because I know if it works and if it has a sound that I find is compatible with my aesthetics.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff this year. I don't remember anything in particular that I thought was amazing, because
Nothing?
I mean, not mind-blowing.
What about semi-amazing, or just really awesome, or something that you don't have that you want? Somebody they effectively stirred a desire in you.
I remember my favorite thing of NAMM was being introduced by a mutual friend to a couple amazing drummers that I've always loved and listened to the records. Not a big name dropper though, not a public name dropper, so I will tell you that in private.
Okay.
But I met 3 awesome drummers, so a couple producers, that, again, I always look up to and love their records. And
So it's more about the people for you than the stuff.
you know, every year it becomes more. When I first went to NAMM, it was always about, oh, what am I going to see? You know, the toys, and
lights,
cameras,
sound,
action. Yeah, I wasn't. I used to be interested in what was going to happen, but I've been lucky enough to work with some amazing people like yourself and get to know a lot of these companies personally, and been able to work with a lot of the gear, and it becomes less about the gear and more about the people. And so now, at least the last 2 to 3 years, it's become just a networking event for me. And I walk by the booths, I see things, but really more interested in meeting people. And I love talking to, I finally talked to some people from McDSP, got to catch up with the Isotope guys, and
Isotope's great.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody should own their denoiser.
Yeah.
Everybody. Because it doesn't matter how clean your track is, there's some noise in there. And when you crank up the compressors or whatever, and you're going to get noise. So their denoiser is just amazing because it just wipes it out.
Yeah.
Does not mess up the sound.
Those guys are brilliant. Those guys are brilliant.
Yeah.
And then the Soft Tube, and then some friends from some other companies I just haven't seen in a long time.
Focusrite has some of the most amazing pieces ever made.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of their red compressor.
Yeah.
Thing is just like, it's got such a beautiful sheen to it. If you run a vocal through it, it'll put like this little 1K magic on there that just like, it just moves the vocal forward a couple of inches out of your speakers, which is kind of the opposite of what most compressors do. They kind of push that vocal back a little bit. Yeah. This thing has just got the most amazing thing on the vocals.
You said 1K. That's funny. I'm not a big tech nerdy guy when it comes to EQing. I just find the right frequency that I like. But for some reason, either on whole mixes if I need it, but especially on vocals, I always boost around 1K. It just has...
It's, 1K is there are many magical frequencies. 1K is totally a magical frequency for me for exactly what you're talking about.
2K sucks.
It is. 2K is hard, and it's got places though, but 1K is like, you can use that basically as a forward or backward knob. Yep. You turn up 1K and the sound bends. It doesn't come forward, it bends forward in the middle. And
it leans forward.
That's a good way to put it. It leans forward. Yeah. And then if you crank it back, it just like, it scoops back, and it also becomes more sort of hollow and distant sounding. And you can really work that frequency. Like I've said this before online. If I had to, and I don't have to, but if I had to, I could very easily get by with nothing but EQs that have 3 frequencies on them. 100 hertz shelf, 1K mid peaking band, and a 10 kilohertz shelf. I could just do everything I need to do with those. Now, I wouldn't be able to get in as tight on some things as I would want, and it blah, 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 but I could do it. And that's amazing, because I don't think I could pick any other 3 frequencies. Yeah, sure I could, but still.
Those have some of the biggest impacts.
They're radical, It's just like, it's weight and then proximity and then lift. That's what you get with those 3 things there. And so you can just shape anything you need to, and 1K is magical. I'm with you.
So speaking of 1K, you and I both, well, this has nothing to do with 1K, but you and I both are the type of guys to EQ before compression, like boosting into compression. I see
and cutting.
Yeah, and cutting, of course.
Yeah.
Explain in your words why you prefer EQing into compression, because for me it's hard to explain. I don't ever want to explain. You're better at this anyway.
Nah, the way you phrased it there is really answers the question. It's because people think of it as, do you EQ before compression? But like you said, you EQ into compression. So your compressor, all compressors respond to different frequencies differently. Most respond more aggressively to low frequencies than highs, but some of them have side chain tricks in there, switches or things you can tilt the frequency with, and blah blah blah. But for the most, by the very nature, because low frequencies have way more energy than high frequencies, a compressor responds to that energy. So when you equalize a signal before compression, you equalize into it, you change not only the tone of your signal, but what the compressor is reacting to, literally. And so if you crank up 2K on a vocal and then you compress it, that compressor will push back down on that 2K. but the result won't be the same sound. Your 2K region will have maybe the same amplitude, but it will be thicker. It'll be more compressed. Maybe it'll have a more defined transient on the front, depending on your attack, whatever you're doing with the compressor. I like to EQ into compression for two reasons. Number one, I can get away with more radical boosts on the EQ.
Yep.
Because it just kind of levels them back out.
Especially the high end. Actually, really all places.
All of them, whatever, yeah. And then also you pull out frequencies that you don't want the compressor responding to because it's going nuts and doing too much compression, but not the kind of compression you want. Specifically, usually low end frequencies, but sometimes mid range frequencies or whatever. And so I just generally find that because EQing really changes the amplitude of frequencies relative to one another. That's its job. The compressor smooths that back out, and so then it has the EQ'd tonal balance, but it doesn't have the level imbalance that it does after the EQing. If that makes any sense. So it sounds like it was recorded that way. The primary thing that happens to me when I EQ after compression is it literally is like undoing the compression.
Yeah.
So, and I'm
you
like,
lose the control that you had.
Why would I undo what I just did?
Yeah.
Because I like the thing that I just compressed, presumably, and so I'm good with that. But I also understand too that if you need to restore a little high end loss, because some compressors do roll off the high frequencies, so they round things nicely, but maybe you lose a little bit of your air. You need to stick that back in after the compressor. That's great. But even then, I would boost it before the compressor.
Absolutely.
Because then I would have saturated, compressed, thicker, high frequencies, and I don't know about you, but I love that sound.
I love smearing.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, no, I agree. In fact, if you're listening, if you're not listening, whatever you're doing, try it.
Try it.
Try it.
You'll never know.
Never know.
Until you try it. And even then you won't know.
Until you listen.
Yeah.
And then try it again.
And even then you won't know.
Yeah. So, cool. Ever done Transcendental Meditation?
You'll have to define that for me because I don't know.
What I've learned so far about what it is it's twice a day, 15 to 20 minutes, and it's a, what do they call it? It's not chant. It's not a chant. It's
mantra.
Mantra. It's a mantra, and you have to be what's really fascinating me is you have to pay to be taught how to do it.
That's like anything that's worth its while.
Okay.
You know?
I thought
that's why if you want to learn how to mix, you got to send me money.
Yeah. I thought there'd be a YouTube video on how to transcendental meditate.
Digital at the House of Kush.
Yeah.
PayPal me.
Okay. I'm not going to. But that's what transcendental meditation is. It's a mantra, 15 to 20 minutes twice a day. Anyway, it's fascinating to me because A, I don't do meditation, and B, the people I look up to creatively are doing this. So I always it's kind of like best practices in business. You always try and follow what other people do successfully.
Amen. Yeah. I do a style of meditation called Vipassana. And Vipassana is it is the most ascetic of ascetic meditative styles.
Acidic?
Acidic. It's totally acidic. It's got a pH of 4.
Nice.
And, Vipassana it's fascinating because there's you sit on a cushion or wherever, you just get yourself comfortable and you close your eyes and then you focus on your breath. Yeah. And which is the same with all meditation to some degree, but the idea here is you don't move your attention and you don't follow your breath down into your lungs and then back out. You stay on the point of your nose where you feel the breath coming in and out. You don't move your attention from there. Of course, your attention will move from there all the time. Yeah. The only job that you have is to notice when you've begun thinking and you're lost in a thought train and you're not focused on the point of your nose, and you just bring your attention back to the point of your nose, and you do that over and over and over again. And Vipassana was really cool because it hit me to the fact that your job in meditation is not to clear your mind or stop your thoughts, because you can't do that. They're you can't do it. Good luck trying.
Which is why I've probably never done meditation in the first place.
And most people stop. They quit in frustration because they're I can't stop. And of course you can't. That's not the point. The point is to notice when you've stopped meditating and you've started thinking, and just bring yourself back to that meditative place. And even if you can only hold it for 2 or 3 or 4 seconds at a time, it's the act of continuously bringing yourself back that cultivates a habit of becoming aware of when you're lost in your thoughts.
What about music? What are you working on?
Oh, Lord, music.
You're doing a record right now with your wife.
Yeah, I'm doing a record right now with my wife. We are doing a proper LP, and by that I mean long play record, as coined in the 40s, I believe, possibly 50s, by the record companies who actually made records back then. It's 7 songs long. I think it's going to clock in probably around 36 minutes, 33 to 36 minutes, somewhere in there, depending on how crazy we get with intros and outros. And we're going to press it to vinyl. It's going to come straight off analog tape to vinyl. And that's, that's not unheard of these days. It's not unprecedented, but it is unusual. And
it's rare these days.
It's okay. I'll go with rare.
Maybe not rare, but
it's highly uncommon. Is what it is.
And so no computers are going to be involved?
No, not at all. Computer is heavily involved. We would not be able to make this record without a computer. Yeah. It's definitely a modern workflow on music that is fairly organic by modern standards, because it's all live instrumentation. It's recorded start to finish. There's very minimal editing. Like if there's like a total clam in there, then maybe I'll fix it with the editor. But by and large, 99% of the time, we will re-record it till it's right.
Yeah.
So we have an old school ethos that way, and. The way it works is it's a cool process basically, and everything was discovered sort of randomly because we never made music together, and she never had any process because she never made any music. But it starts off. I'll just come together with I'll do a little drum loop. I'll sit down on the drum kit and record something and get that down, and then I'll lay down a scratch guitar or scratch piano chord progression and just kind of loop that out to infinity. And while I'm doing that, she's sitting there and she's basically, we call it vomit. She just writes and writes and writes nonstop without thinking about it. It's not sentences. It's not coherent. It's not connected in any way. It's just these clumps of words from 3 to 5 to 7 words long, and just one after the other. And they're all imagistic. They're abstract. Some are jive. Some of them are sexual. Some of them are just cosmically weird. But they all have a sort of a feel to them, these strings of words, even if they don't make sense. And then when I get the music bed just sort of looped out, we'll sit there and she'll read every single line. She'll fill up like 3-4 pages at a time. And then she'll read these, 100 or 200 clumps of words. And I'll close my eyes and everyone, every 5th or 6th phrase or 12th phrase or whatever, I'll be like, oh, that one right there. Oh, those 2 words right there. Boom.
Oh, wait, is this happening with music playing?
Yeah, we got the music playing quietly in the background.
Is she singing or is she reading?
No, she's just reading the words to me in a very neutral tone of voice, like a diction kind of a thing. And so I just pick out words that's some between between what I'm hearing in my right ear and her voice with the words, and my left ear with the music coming out of the speakers. Some kind of like will happen, and I've learned to recognize that. I'm like, that right there, right there. So it's not even I don't have time to process what she's saying or what the words are. I'm paying attention to this literally my abdomen, because I'll usually feel a little tremble in there, and I'm like, that's it. So then we get like a huge collection of distilled down phrases, and then I'll add my tweaks to them. I'll be like, all right, let me change this word here. I like these 2 words, toss the rest of this line, make it this, blah, blah, blah. So then I do my thing to the lyrics, and then what we have is like 30 or 40 phrases that we both kind of wrote in our own way. And then we have this music bed going, and we have the consolidated phrases that like have tickled something in me, and then we go to town trying to figure out how some or all of these words plug into the music that we're hearing. And when we start to craft a melody and a cadence and a meter and a structure all together,
cool.
And it comes in bits and pieces, and we kind of have to struggle really hard to hear it, and sometimes we fight and blah blah blah. And it's really one of the only places we fight is in the recording studio. It's just so brutal to work on art.
Yeah.
And then, but eventually we'll get there. So we start with the hook always, because it's just easier to start with the chorus and work our way backwards than to tell a story through a verse and then through a pre-chorus, and boom, we've kind of shot our load, and then we have to like have the payoff. It's too much pressure. So we do.
Sometimes the best stuff you write is the first thing. Anyway,
that's the thing.
It's like those first ideas. Like you have to discipline yourself. Like, no, that should be the chorus.
That's it. Yeah. Just go with it. And that's the thing. Is if you have 30 or 40 phrases the way that we do, and you pick like the strongest 1 or 2 or 3. Then you want that in the chorus.
Yeah.
You want the strongest stuff in that chorus. Yeah. And then, because then you only...
That's the statement of the whole song.
That's it. We're trying to get to this place with the music where it's literally 2 or 3 words or just a phrase, and then we can say that over and over, and you never get tired of hearing it because it's just got a thing. So we get all the lyrics chosen in the melody like that, and then the coolest thing happens. Then we ditch the music that we started with, the drums that's right. The drums that I started with and the music, the chord progression, we ditch it, and I sit down with the guitar or the keyboard, and she starts to sing what we've just written, and I come up with new chords.
Wait a minute, she's singing what you just wrote, the melody,
the lyrics, or I'm singing it if it's my song, and
so the only thing that stays is the previous melody,
is the melody and the lyrics. That's your song, right? I'm going to admit this. I downloaded and read parts of the Mixer Man book.
Wait a minute, what are you admitting?
That I've read part of Mixer Man's book.
I thought you were admitting that you downloaded instead of bought the book.
I bought it and then downloaded the ebook.
So you got it digitally instead of hard copy.
Yes. He wrote a book called Zen and the Art of Mixing. Zen and the Art of Mixing. Yes, thank you. And I haven't read it all. I don't think I even read most of it. But it's one of those books I just pick it up and I read. I just randomly open to a page and I just check it out.
And it seems like, at least from what I've seen his posts, which I really enjoy, that it's one of those books you could probably just go anywhere and immediately you don't have to have a before and after. You can find some good information.
It does seem to flow that way. Yeah, he definitely he's written it in a flowing manner. Like he had a start and a finish, and everything connects in between. But you don't have to read it that way.
Yeah. Anyway, continue.
And he's a great writer. I got to give him credit. He's a great writer. And one of the things that I picked up in his book blew my mind, like in a way that very few things that I've ever read about music or audio or whatever ever have. And he laid it out like this. He said, basically, in my mind, I see it as a pyramid. I don't think he made it a pyramid, but it has 5 levels. And at the top of this pyramid is the production. So your production is your end goal. That's what you want. That's what you play for people. That's what they hear, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And a production is a recording. That's the second level down on his pyramid, right? A production is a recording of a performance, of an arrangement, of a song. And right. So when I first read it, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. And I had reread that, and production is a recording of a performance, of an arrangement, of a song. And I just like, oh man, that makes so much sense. Now, I don't think he invented this. I think somebody gave this to him, and then he gave it to me, so he gets credit in my world for that. But anyway, I was like, oh, what is a song? A song is different than a recording. A recording is different than a performance of an arrangement. Oh, an arrangement of a song. This is crazy. What's the song? This song, I've learned through that bit of wisdom and our own process writing with Sarah, is the melody and the lyric, and that's it.
And that's
the song.
And that's in legal terms as well, right?
Yes, exactly. The law reinforces this, at least in the States. I believe it does in many other places too. Those are the only 2 things that you can copyright.
Yeah.
It's the melody. Because you can lay any chord progression you want, and now most of them aren't going to work, but you can reharmonize a melody, put other chords under it. It's going to work. It's still going to be recognizable. People are going to recognize that melody, and they're going to recognize the words. So that ties back in now. So Sarah and I, at that point in time, we realized now when we have the melody and we have the lyric written, we have the song, and now it's time to come up with an arrangement.
All right.
And so an arrangement is, what are all the various parts? What are the instruments in there? How long do they play? When do the sections change? How do the transitions happen? What's the dynamic? Does it start off soft? Does it start blah, 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 blah. So we'll take the lyric and the melody we've written, and we will then play piano or guitar under it. And sometimes we come up with completely different chords for this melody.
Wow.
And the mood will totally change. So we had something, because our lyrics are kind of abstract and jivey, they don't really tell a story per se. So the mood comes almost exclusively from the melody and how it's sung. And when you put different chords under this thing, suddenly you phrase it differently. You sing different with a different energy. And then we'll play with the key. We'll take it up. We'll take it down. We'll find a place where it's very comfortable to sing, but it still carries an emotional weight. It's usually very obvious. You're like, oh, that one right there. You feel something. And then in the process of all of this, we've got a new chord progression, and just naturally, if you play an instrument, you know what it's like. If you just sort of noodle around on something unfamiliar, your tempo will slide all over the place.
And melody may slightly change just a little bit, the way it's, or is that going to stay the same?
Yeah, everything is always subject to a little bit of revision, but we try to respect the work.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, this is the danger. The fewer the people in an act, generally in my experience, the greater the risk that they will redo and redo and redo. And I have very specific theories as to why artists do that. But when you introduce a second person in, it becomes easier to just keep moving forward. And when you have a whole band and you write in a band context, you find generally it's very easy to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So anyway,
interesting.
Yeah, we may tweak the melody or something, maybe a note or something like that, but we try to keep that minimal because we try to respect the work that we've done because
it just keeps moving forward.
It keeps us moving forward. And because, different days, different moods, you're like, I don't like that thing, blah, blah, blah. And if you let your mood of the day dictate how you feel about what you wrote, you'll never get anywhere, man. Never. So yeah, we respect the work, and so we got the new tempo comes out of this process. We got new chords, we got the melody, and we got the lyric, and now it's time to start like recording in earnest. And so the first thing that I'll do is I will record. We record scratch vocals first, and that gets us all the way through the song. And then I can arrange around that. I can add, 8 bars or 16 bars of intro. I can insert things in between verses and chorus. And this way I'm creating the arrangement now based on the scratch vocal.
Now, is the scratch vocal recorded a cappella style? Is there, do you still, we
lay something quick and dirty down. Sometimes it's just a click track. Sometimes we will record a vocal to nothing more than a couple of open notes and a click track.
Okay, gotcha.
And that way the voice completely finds its own groove because being a vocal act and being fans of pop music, even though our music isn't really pop, it's got some influence of the simple pop format, verse, chorus, repeated structures and things like that. But yeah, it's an amazing thing to let the singer kind of flow through a wide open space because they will find a groove that they would never have done if you define it for them. And so making the vocal all important, everything we've done up to that point was to give us the lyric and the melody so that the singer could then express that. And making those things at the top of our food chain, I think, is making the music more powerful than anything we've ever done before.
Nice.
Yeah. And so we get the scratch vocal laid, and then I arrange around that. Like I said, I insert time, I cut time, blah, blah, blah. And then I record real drums. And recording real drums in an equally wide open space, I do dynamic changes, I do weird fills, I'll do whatever I do, and it's just an amazing thing to have that kind of freedom in there.
Yeah.
And so now the song's really taking shape. The arrangement's really taking shape, right? That's the thing that's happening here. And so
got the final drum tracks, you got the melody,
the final drum track,
you got the tempo, obviously.
Got a scratch vocal in place. Then I do the final guitars over the scratch vocals and the final drums. And the final guitars then have crazy dynamic builds that follow the drums and everything like that. And then inside that space, we lay final vocals. And so now we've got the drums are the primary rhythmic instrument, the guitars are carrying the chords and the melody, and then the vocal comes in, and we really just record. Sometimes we record 100 takes.
Yeah.
And it's not because we comp from all those different takes. It's usually because there's one take in there that has 80% of what you need. And then we just pull from a few other ones, and then we're done with that primary vocal.
Nice. And then what about bass?
That's the next step then, is after the final vocal, I can play bass, and I'm really quite good at it, but I'm slow because it's not my primary instrument. And because we're interested in just moving forward and getting this stuff done, we're paying a bass player who really knows what he's doing to come in and just lay it down.
Why? The bass, how come you don't have the bass played after the drums and before guitar? Or does it matter to you?
Because a couple of reasons. I'm glad you asked that. A couple of reasons. The first is because I'm not a bass player, if I want something that's really going to feel good, it's going to take me time to do it. Sometimes I'll have to spend a whole evening, 2-3 evenings coming up with a bass line that really works through the whole song. And then it's just not, I'm a huge bass head. Yeah. When you get a bass player to come in and lay it down, man, it's just nothing like that. So if my bass groove defines the overall groove of the song before the voice comes in, and then we change that groove, it's not going to line up the same way.
So you don't, even if you're hiring somebody, you'd rather them record the bass after you've got the guitars and vocals, so that doesn't change, and that doesn't really affect the way the bass player is going to play to the drums or the guitars, right?
It should. I mean, they should.
It should, but
that's the thing, is that they'll respect everything that's going on.
Gotcha.
But it's just really, it's an efficiency thing more than anything. If I don't have to record bass, we save time, and then my bass playing doesn't influence the groove. That's not going to be final groove. So
gotcha. Yeah. Cool.
So then we hired, so we got the bass player come in, we'll let him do his thing. And then we have another guy that comes in and he's just the master of Rhodes and all things ivories. And he lays down some B3 or some Rhodes or whatever. And then I'm going to do some basic sort of mono-synth, simple textures, nothing crazy on the synthesizer stuff. Just little transitional elements, little background things, whatever, ear candy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we're going to lay our harmony vocal stacks, and those things are just going to be insanely dense because we're a huge fan of 60s and 70s style harmony vocals.
Cool. Like who?
Anything from like 60s jazz, Sergio Mendes and the stuff that they were doing, and Herb Alpert and Burt Bacharach, those guys, through the 70s to the more well-known stuff like Fleetwood Mac and the Bee Gees, even some Bread, some AM Gold, some soft rock to get the ladies in town.
AM Gold. Nice. So after the harmonies, at that time...
Mix.
Now, do you...
Time to mix it down.
When you...
I can't wait. Oh my God, I can't wait.
When you... Take it easy. when you start... when you start laying down the synths, like those little elements, do you have those things in your head during the arrangement part? Is this one of those, like...
I don't have... Here's the thing. I know that people talk about... I guess it's because I'm a drummer. I will hear drum beats in my head.
Yeah.
And then I'll lay them down. But even then, like, all music for me, I feel it in real time. I find it. I keep clawing at it.
It should be a spontaneous thing.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is because nothing I do is...
Good?
Well, yeah. I could have said that a long time ago. Nothing I do is good. Secondly, everything I do is spontaneous, and I just, find a sound. It's like, oh, this might sound good here. I just experiment. Like, I think that's my whole way of writing is
spontaneous. That's interesting. I never really thought of what I'm talking about as spontaneous.
It is
because I sat down with a very deliberate intention.
But those elements, those extra elements, if you are or not going to add them, it's a spontaneous gesture, is it not?
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying it's interesting. I never thought of it that way. Random is really the word that I think of, because I don't, and because I claw my way to music very painfully and very slowly, and she reveals herself one tiny layer at a time, and at great personal expense to my brain. That, and I think a lot of other musicians experience that, and I think that's why all of us, to some degree, we kind of think of ourselves as frauds because we don't really understand how this is happening. We don't feel in control of the process because we're not, and just we don't know how to instantly get from point A to point B. We don't know how to instantly make the best possible musical statement that we're capable of making simply appear in front of us. Yeah. We have to work really hard for it, and it feels like it just kind of happened. Like, whoa, there it is. And it's like that relationship to the music, on some level, we're like, I don't really know what I'm doing, because it's not like when you sit down to do math, you write out 2 + 2 = 4, and you know it, so you're like, I'm good, me good at math, right? You got that, but me good.
Yeah, being the fraud thing. Yeah, I'm a total fraud. I have no.
We're all frauds.
Yeah,
and thieves.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody's stealing everything because that's
fraudulent.
How it's done.
Fraudulent thieves.
A wise man once said, "Good artists borrow, great artists steal."
Yep.
Everybody, and if you don't know that, you need to know that because it's true.
Put that on your wall.
It's just true.
Not your Facebook wall, but on your actual studio wall.
Everybody whose music you love stole things from music that they love, and that music stole things from music that they love. None of this is invented. Everything comes from everything before it. You're doing great.